Hi everyone, I'm going to do an art journal page today. Now I've done this page, I don't know, a few videos ago, and someone asked me if I can do something similar but with other colors, just to see how, well, the same technique and how it changes by changing colors. And they asked for purple and pink, so I can do purple, I can do some pink. So we'll see where it gets me. Okay, so if you remember, I started that page with a map, so I'm starting again with a map. You can do dictionary pages, book pages, maps of all kind, whatever you want. This is just an instant start to a page with lots of details in the back. So I've got white gesso here. I've picked this stencil. This is a stencil from Stamperia, and that's what I'm going to do in to stencil on my page. Now I'm not sure if I want it all over. And this one I used a stencil that I made of leaves all around. I'm not sure I want all my page to be with the flowers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start stenciling at least part of the page, and then see if I can pick another stencil that can, well, complement this stencil. So it won't be the flowers on every inch of the page. Now it's up to you to decide how opaque you want your stenciling. This is kind of a resist what we are doing here with the stenciling, and also covering part of the background. Moving here. And if you want it to be completely opaque, just prepare yourself to do 2 to 3 layers of the gesso. Even if it's a heavy gesso, still you will need more than 1 layer to cover completely the details of the map or whatever you decided to put in your background. So I'm stenciling here and lifting to see what's going on. It's a little bit tricky to see white on white and little details, but that's okay. Nothing needs to be perfect here. It's just kind of more details to the back, details that cover some of the other details and creating resist. So it really doesn't matter. Now if you put something in the back instead of a map, and there is a section of it that really matters to you showing through the layers, then don't cover it. But otherwise, don't get attached to anything in the background. I don't care, it's a map. I really don't care what's going on. I'm just building up layers here. Let's see, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so I know you can't see a lot here, but it is what it is. And now I'm thinking, what else am I putting on the background? And I just remember I had this stencil, I think it's either AliExpress or Temu, I'm not sure. So I've got all kinds of elements here, so it can be very interesting. If I remembered it before I used the other stencil, then I would have used this on all my page because it will give me more elements in the background and not just flowers. It seems like I have some probably distress ink on my stencil. I haven't cleaned it, so it reacts with the gesso and it's not quite white, but I don't care. Again, it's just a resist. There will be paint on top of it, so that's good enough for me. Continuing. I hope my AC doesn't do a lot of noise, but right now it's almost impossible to be here without an AC. Lifting. Okay. As I said, a little bit difficult to see all the details, but that's okay. I can manage. I need more gesso. This is a little bit dry here. Okay. Quite thick gesso. Okay. So stenciling away. A little bit more. Just going over areas that I want a little bit more detail and more of the stencil. Okay, so here it is. Looks like a mess, but that's just the start. Putting away the stencil, I'm going to let this dry completely before I'm doing the color on top. I'll be back. Okay, so this is dry. Now you can go on top of it with anything that is translucent. Translucent sprays. Mine are made from gel food coloring and water, so I can use them. I can use watercolors. You can even use distress inks just by putting the ink pad on top of a non-porous substrate and then activating it with water. I'm using watercolors. You can take acrylic paints and dilute them with water. So all kinds of stuff, just nothing that is opaque, because we want it to react with this. I've got here watercolors. I've got, this is the Paul Rubens watercolor set that I have, that I'm planning to use. I've got this set from Amazon. This has no brand. I'm thinking of maybe using this. And I also got this metallics from the cheap store. So as requested, I'm starting with some purple, and I like to have the darker color towards my edges, and that's what I'm doing. But what I do is I'm adding water and taking it towards the inside. Why? So I won't have a harsh line. It blends into the background. I don't want a harsh line. So you don't need to be an expert on watercolors. You just spread them around and let them do what they do best. Adding water and letting it spread until I've got nothing. go. I'm going to use more colors. I'm just starting with the dark purple because putting first like a frame to the page, the darker color, it just gives you a better perspective of how the rest of the page will go. But you can start with the lighter colors on the inside if it's what you like to do. This is just how I operate. Okay, adding water, letting it spread. Okay, moving on to some, I don't know, magenta. Oops, took from the wrong place. And again, I'm adding water so it will react and spread and blend with the purple I have. I'm making puddles of paint, just playing with it, letting them blend in between and spread. And let's pick another color. Some pink that I can live with. Let's see. Let's see how this one looks. That's okay. And if I don't like it, I can go over it with something else. Don't know how much you can see the difference between the colors, but there is a difference, and here I didn't have enough purple. When it's starting to dry and absorb into the page, then it becomes less vibrant or less dark. So a lot of time I will go back and just add, like here. If I want it to be darker, I'll just go and again spread it. And I can always go again and again and add more until I got what I want. I'm saving the metallic for later. I'm thinking to do the splatter with them. Let's see what else. Maybe this one. Why not? It has a little bit more red in it, and that's okay. So I won't have to do Barbie pink, which I hate. I'm adding a little bit more of the reddish color because it mutes the pinkish color that I don't like. I'm just playing with all kinds of shades of purple now, because why not? And it all mixes together, especially when everything is still wet. So it just doing the job for you. As I said, you really don't need to be an expert on watercolors to do this kind of thing. Just need to play with it and let them spread. Like if you took a spray bottle, it will spread. So you can do the same thing with this. I'm thinking a little bit of the purple again. I want it more dramatic, so I'm adding more to the edges and helping it spread towards the inside again, so I won't have a harsh line. And all this spreading is just creating more and more in between shades, so it just does your work for you. Okay, so now while everything is still wet, I like to do some metallic splattering. Don't know how much of it will show, but I'm going to try to do it. And let's see, it would be easier to just put water here. And now we are talking. Okay. I'm not gentle about it. You can, if you don't like it, don't do it. Again, I like to do this wet on wet because, again, there is reaction between the two. And although metallics don't show on the video, sadly, it's still here, and it still gives more like we have a texture, we have visual texture, and for me it's paint texture because there is always an in between. And I'm thinking that I want another color here, but I don't want to go inside with the brush. I want more of a splatter. I'm thinking this color. This is my Pelican set from, I don't know, 3-4 decades ago. So yeah, I'm going dramatic here. And it won't look like this at the end, because again, this is wet on wet and it takes time for everything to react, everything to dry. But this is it, that's my background. And next would be the focal point. But now I have to wait for everything to be dry completely. I'll be back. Okay, so this is dry. I'm going to tilt it and maybe you can see the shimmer of the metallics that I splattered. And I've picked another stencil. I'm using this one, and let's see. And I'm going to use more of the gesso just because it has a more chalky finish and also matte finish, and also it's more opaque than white acrylic paint. But you can use white acrylic paint, and if you want it to be more opaque, of course, again, you need to just go over. Even with gesso, sometimes you need more than one layer. So I think it's placed where I wanted, and let's start somewhere. So I'm taking white gesso with a makeup sponge, dabbing always the excess, and start stenciling. And you can play with it because if you want some of the background to show, then you don't need to do more than one layer and let it show. But if you want part of it or some gradual effect, then just go over with more white only on the areas that you want. It's really up to you. So now I'm just going very quickly about it. Like so. The only thing that I do try is that some of them gesso that I use to do a resist, so that's the only thing that I don't want to show through, because then it will just be one big mess and it would be difficult to differentiate between the two. You want an interesting background without it taking over, so your focal point is not visible or just going and disappearing into the background because you've got too much going on. I'm trying to make my focal point stand out on an interesting background. That's it. Now, if I'm not sure how it looks, or areas that need more attention, then I can always lift. I'm keeping my hold here and picking it up to see what's going on. And several places need a little bit more of the white. Now, of course, you can do some fixing afterwards with white gel pens or white acrylic pens, markers. As I said in the last video I've done this technique, before I even had any gel pens or Posca pens, I just used a correction fluid when I needed to do some detailing with white. So there is always a way. Just want my focal point to be white against the background. Okay, so here, that's the start, and I'm going to take a brush with water. I'm going to dilute part of it instead of, just because I still have gesso here, I'm not taking white acrylic paint, and I'll do the fixing just with the brush. And by fixing here, I'm just talking about connecting the parts of the stencil. You don't have to do it, I just feel like I need to. You can leave it as is. So I'm going to do this, and afterwards I'm going to take just a black pen with a fine point. This one is a 0.5, very fine, and I'm going to go with a scribbly line around my shapes. So I'll be back when this is dry, because I can't do this with before everything dries. I'll be back. Okay, so I finished with the white, and now I'm going over with the black pen, and I already started, and I'm doing a squiggly line. If you are watching my videos, you know how I like squiggly line, and I'm going very loose around the shapes because that's how I like it. You can do you can do precise. It doesn't even have to be a black marker. It can be any color that you want. I think here would probably work dark purple. If you've got any kind of a marker in dark purple, it will work, and you can just change as you go and see how it works for you. So I'm just going very loose around the shapes with the black. Just because I found out that that's how I like to do things. Now, in some instances, precise is called for, then I will do precise, but that's my preferred way to go about it. Now after this, it can be done, or you can decide that you want more details. I'm thinking that this time I'm going to add just a hint of color to my white focal point, and I'm thinking of using watercolor pencils, just because, you know what, I don't even need watercolor pencils. You can do a hint of color with regular felt pens, because I've used gesso, and gesso is a primer, so I can work on it with felt pens, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's see, felt pens. Okay, regular felt pens from the cheap store. When you are using them on any substrate that is not porous, then you can almost use them as watercolors. So I'm putting down a little bit of the felt pen, and I'm activating it with a brush with water, but I've used too much and I even don't like the color, so I'm just dabbing it, and I'm going to take another shade of purple. Let's see in another area, putting down a little bit here, purple, water, and here we go. Of course, you can go back to your watercolors or whatever you used, up to you, but this is a really easy way to add a hint of color, and up to you the amount you want, more water, less bright. So really up to you how you want to go about it. And I'm thinking that maybe I need a hint of this color. This is dry trash. Let's see, I've got more. Let's see. No, too pink. Okay, this is a little bit better. Just a hint of color at the base of the petals. I'll add a little bit here where I've put purple, I'm using this just because it's a little bit more controlled. And I don't want to take my watercolors out again. That's it. Okay, so brush with a little bit of water and activating. So just a hint of color. Of course you can leave it be. That's how I went about it the last time. Just left it stark white, so you can always mix it up, change. It also activating the black pen that I've used, but I don't care. I don't care because now I think the color is a little bit more interesting and less pinkish, so it works for me. What can I say? And I can also do a hint of a green in some places. Again, I don't want to eliminate the white, I just want a hint of color, and that's it. Maybe a little bit here. It also helps for your focal point not to look flat. So the white is great in popping on the background, but a hint of color here and there makes your focal point more interesting and less flat. Yeah. Maybe another thing that you can do to make it look less flat is do some drop shadow, taking anything that you can do under your shapes, either with a dark pencil, like let's see, this is a 6B. I can go under the shapes like so and do a drop shadow. I can also blend it with this blending stamp. You can go with a dark shade of watercolors. Anything goes underneath the shapes so it looks less flat, more dimension. I'm just adding in a few places. Basically underneath, as if the light comes from above, so the shading would be at the bottom. Maybe a little bit here. Okay, so now just blending. I've got one that is thicker than this one, which would probably be easier to work. So I'm just blending it into the background. You can, as I said, you can use anything here. This is just for me, it's a quicker way to go about it, and nothing again that would be wet. Don't want to wait for anything else. Just add a little bit of shadow. That's it. And sometimes I've got so much graphite here that I can go in other places and do a more subtle shadow just with the stump without adding more of the pencil. Almost done. As I said, it's a very quick way to go about it. So yeah, let's see. Taking a step back, looking. Here I need a little bit of shadow. Yeah. I really like it. And that's it. Yeah, I think I'm done with this page. I hope you liked it. I hope you will try your combination of colors, focal points, and this technique. So thank you for watching, and thank you for leaving me comments down below. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.